it. I nearly missed it.
Yeah.
Not too fast, Edgar.
Is it going to be a slow week?
No, it looks like Monday is the fastest. Get into it sort of thing, isn't it?
Good morning, Dirk.
Hi, good morning to
How
you.
are
Edgar.
you? Hello, everyone. Good to have everyone joining us again. So, how are you feeling?
Yeah, good. Had a wonderful Mother's Day weekend.
Okay.
Yes, because we're allowed to go a little bit more out, and it was, the allowing was defined by one household to another household. So our daughter is expecting a baby. She's missed out on birthdays. The little one was missed out on birthday. Penny missed out. So, for Penny's sake, we've gone and had Mother's Day with them.
Okay, so family time.
It was family time.
Yeah.
Really, really nice.
Yeah. Oh, actually, that's right on topic right now, isn't it? Family, relationships, history, and all of that. I just read a book, or I'm reading a book right now, and the author talks about non-places.
What are non-places?
Non-places, and it's prevalent right now in our culture. One would be an airport lounge. Like all over the world now, they all look the same. It's you could be in Asia, you could be in Saudi Arabia, whatever, and you've got the same brands, the same shops. It's not really local history, whatever. And so a non-place is where you're not tied to relationships, where you're not tied to a certain identity, and where you're not tied to any history. And so, very much it's
like a shopping centre. You go there because it's a functional thing, or an airport.
Yeah.
You just transient, you go through, and then that's it.
Yeah, it's actually very much related to probably shopping, consumerism, online. You can be whoever you want to be. You can go wherever you want to be, and you're not tied to relationships or a history of a place, or a certain identity that constricts you in a way.
Actually, that's an interesting thought about online being a non-place.
Yeah, a non-place.
Yeah.
But they do find out now that it's actually not good for people, because they get lost in it, because you miss out on the relationships, so you miss out on support and love and all of that, but you also miss out on identity. You actually no longer know who you are, where do you fit in, and because usually relationships and how we history, how we are with one another identifies who we are.
Do you know, Edgar, I've come across this from families a few times when their little kids, or even bigger kids, get involved in online gaming.
Yes.
And they lose a little bit of their reality to real life.
Yes.
Because they've become so immersed in this non-reality, this non-space.
Or they make an alternative reality, which supplants the real one. I mean, I noticed it a little bit, in Germany, you're growing up, you've got two brothers, and you're growing up in a church, and you're the son of Helmut Meyer, my dad. You're the son of Helmut and Gerda. But so you get identified in the history of, you're part of the family, and, you have a history in the church because you've been there forever. But then you emigrate and you go to a place where they don't know you.
Oh, yeah.
You're no longer the son, and you're basically your own person, and you can have the freedom of redefining yourself.
Well, Edgar and I both have that history coming from Germany over here into a place where you have to redefine yourself, isn't it? Because you don't have the roots anymore. It's interesting you would say that. I was traveling around Germany at one stage a long time ago, and checking out some of the old historical places where Penny has come from.
Okay.
So Penny's 6th generation Australia, right? Talking about, there's still history though, but it's 6 generations back, right? It came out in 1863.
Yeah.
And we checked out some of the churches, and the churches still had these benches that, your old churches with a bench. But they had a lockable door with the family name on it, right?
There we go.
So this was the family bench, and they had a lock on it. It's like no one else is going to come into our bench. That's our bench. Can you believe that?
Here we go. But see, it's interesting that you went to the place where you had history, where the family comes from, and I mean, so many in Australia are doing it because somehow deep within we know history and story matters, and probably I had it a little bit on my heart, and that's probably why we're talking about it as well. Sometimes people join a church and they almost treat it a bit like a bit of a non-place, in the sense of, you know, I go to a church where maybe I hear a good sermon, or I go to a church where they're friendly to me, or I go to a church where the worship is good, or the kids program, whatever. So, you know, whatever serves you, but then you keep your own identity and do whatever you want to do. But this is not how it is. It's not a non-place.
Oh, Edgar, that's...
A church actually has history. Like, you know, you go back, there was a calling from God, and he took a people and formed a church, and, you know, there were experiences here and there were experiences there that shaped the community, and this is where it's going. That's what you're joining.
Yeah. Do you know, Edgar, I don't know if you've seen it, I'm sure you have, but in 30 years of ministry, that has been my bugbear, my frustration.
You're getting Dirk's bugbear today.
Oh, you know, the frustration of this consumer mentality Christianity, that, you know, you clock in and you clock out, and then there's like, you know, I didn't like that, and I didn't like that hymn, I want this, I want that. It's a kind of like, you know, you're going to the shopping center and you want church to be according to me.
Yeah.
And you know, you have a lot in churches where you have this veiled idolatry that says, actually, it's church according to me, not according to community, not according to God, but according to my wishes. And you then, by default, make it a non-space. Yeah. Because it's not community, it's not God. It's not going to tease things out of you that says you need to belong, and that means that it's maybe not all about you. It may be about how you can be something to someone else and can make connections.
But I have a feeling that, I don't know, could even be the majority is not even aware that when you join a church, you actually join a people with their history. And like, you know, in our own upbringing, you know, when we ordained, you know, the average tenure of a pastor in a place was less than 5 years. Yeah. So there was never even the idea that you would actually join a history of a place. It's like, you know, you do clock in and you clock out. You do what they do everywhere. You preach a lectionary. You do this. You do that. You know, and it's interchangeable. The ministry was interchangeable in all but it's not. Every church is unique. It's a family of God that put people together for a purpose and a calling. And I think you were very aware when you came up here that that's what it meant a little bit.
Well, the thing is that, you know, Living Grace has a reputation.
Yeah.
You have a reputation. And it's a good reputation.
Depending on who
it
you
is a
talk
good
to.
reputation. But it depends on who you talk to, because, you know, the reputation is here that Edgar and Living Grace seek after the experiences of God. We believe that God is for real, not just words, but the experience of it. The you know, so experiential faith is often seen as a bit like, you know, right? So when you say, okay, we're going to come and join and be part of the ministry here, you know that you're going to join a reputation, a history.
Yes.
You know, the reputation of this is actually connected to years and years of developing who you are, your identity.
Yeah, and what God's done. I guess in your case, God's led you through the same journey.
Yeah.
You know, very much from an academic, intellectual faith, and suddenly God surprised you how real He is.
Oh, looking at the experiential stuff in my life, and this is, I guess, why it was... there were no problems in me sort of saying, Edgar, let's get together, because in a way, for many years I've been in an institutional church where experiential stuff was, you know, yes, but keep it to yourself. You know, it's not something that actually takes the lead. It's back there somewhere. But even my grandpa, you know, stories that I grew up with as a kid. My grandpa being a soldier, coming back from the war, hearing his word, you know, his name being called out, and changing his life, and that became a story that I remember to this day.
And it becomes your own story.
Yeah, that was experiential.
Formative. Yes. So
God called him.
Yes.
It's like how about that?
Yes. And isn't it when you first come into, you know, when you first came to Living Grace, there's a lot of listening that gets done. What are the stories in the church? What's the identity? What did God shape? I think a big one for you would have been to leave the Lutheran denomination, because a Lutheran denomination, let's say the Lutheran Church of Australia, has a story.
Yeah.
And you were part of that story.
But you know, Edgar, you're right. but it's a limited story.
Yeah.
What I mean with that is, having grown up in Germany,
Yes.
my understanding of what does it mean to be Lutheran is much, much bigger than one
Yeah, well,
institutional church, right?
Yes.
And I'm still very much tied to my identity as Lutheran in terms of a conviction of understanding God's word from a grace base that goes all the way to Luther, 500 years perspective, not an institutional.
The Reformation and the
Exactly.
Awakening. Yes.
So it's more about again, identity that's related to history that is more than just the last few moments.
Yes.
And institutional stuff is not real. I mean, institutional is like, sorry to say, but it sounds to me again and again that what we've made out of institutional church is like a shopping center.
Yeah.
And what I see in Luther, what I see in my grandparents, what I see in my own life is that God calls us to have an identity in relationship.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah, I'm thinking about that. When, for me, it's probably the same. I came and studied for the ministry here in Australia, and I was born and bred in Germany. I emigrated and straight into the seminary, so I wasn't shaped by Australian Lutheranism. For me, that was a far bigger picture, and I saw a much richer diversity of. But when we did the new Constitution for Living Grace, we actually didn't cut off all those roots of the past. Very much, see ourselves as in the stream of the Reformation and all that is coming out, because history is history, and according to God, it is actually precious.
So what have you got according to
Maybe
God?
I just...
You're actually taking it up, so let's find out.
So,
what have you got?
In 2 Timothy, and this is very personal, 2 Timothy 1 verse 5, it says, Paul writes to Timothy saying, I've been reminded of your sincere faith, which first lived in your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice, and I'm persuaded now lives in you also. For this reason, I remind you to fan into flame the gift of God, which is in you through the laying on of my hands.
Wow.
And so what you have here, Timothy, so he's not in a non-place. He actually got relationships. His mum, his grandma, Paul that laid hands on him. He got identity in that. He's the son, he's the grandson, he's the spiritual son of Paul. And there's history. Yeah. So there's history there. And that embeds him in who he is and where he's going and what God has done in his life. And that provides meaning. Yeah. And a bit of safety and all of that.
Edgar, at home, I've got a wedding ring.
Yeah.
From the General Secretary of the Basel Mission Society.
Ah, yes. Wow.
Because on Penny's mother's side, her mother's grandfather, I think, came out to Australia as a missionary from the Basel Mission Society.
Yes, yes.
And the inheritance of that moment there has been passed down, if you like, all the way through. There were even pastors that have come out of that line.
Yes.
And now I have his wedding ring.
Yeah.
So talking about the inheritance of things, like Lois and Eunice, you have one generation passing it on to the next generation, and it's like, and I know that in my own family, I'm in the succession of many people who've passed on their faith. In actual fact, I would say that a lot of the influence of my faith has been shaped by my grandparents. The Lois and the Eunice kind of, all the way through until the laying on of hands. It's like for ministry and other things that have happened, and making that personal then for me. And I think this is one of the things is that we as grandparents and as parents have a role to play in passing on, laying on the hands, the passing on of the faith. But it's also the idea of Timothy here of recognizing as young people that we are in succession of an inheritance of faith that links to history, as you say.
Yes.
Not to a non-place, not to consumerism, but to family that is shaped by God's identity of who we are.
Yeah. And anyway, I think we've got to stop for today.
So, don't miss out on sharing opportunities as parents, grandparents. You can actually have a huge impact on your kids.
Yes, and we are a people that have a story, that have history with God, that we celebrate and understand. And when we join and when we are church together, our stories come together, and there's a history that God has with the people, and that's church. And that I find that very exciting. It's the opposite to non-place. It bestows, there's love and there's identity there, there's a future there, a calling. It's great.
So tell your story to your kids. How did you come to faith? What did it mean to you?
Yes.
Eh? That would be a good one to tell
Okay.
on Monday. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Have a good day.